The Tate brothers. Yes, indeed, it will be one of those videos. So if you're easily triggered, get emotional, or get reactive about anything pertaining to the Tate brothers, I would advise you to not watch this video. And in fact, consider your following of this particular channel from here forward. And the wonderlust, oblivious idiots of our world are just going to believe it. Did Benny know all this? Evidence about the Tate brothers' character, crimes, schemes, everything that I mentioned before is out there for you to see and hear for yourself. And in my opinion, they are some of the dumbest self-snitching criminals I have ever seen or heard. And it's not hard to comprehend. Muchachos y muchachas, conservatives have been infiltrated, and you cannot convince me otherwise. I really want to discuss the issue that I've been observing of the right wing, or the conservative sphere, if you will. We've really had to combat a lot of the culture war, and that entailed us going against the mainstream. And we're talking celebrities, we're talking music, we're talking industries. And finally, it does seem to be that the pendulum is finally swinging our way. However, with unvetted morals. You really have to ask yourself, what morals are worth preserving, and what method are you willing to preserve them for yourself and for your family? You see, at one point, even present day, we scoffed at celebrities recent years for promoting degeneracy, things like promiscuity, victim mentality, lying and scheming, just all around bad morals. We felt that we would not let our loved ones fall into such filthy behavior unless at least it put on a different mask, and you have no idea what that looks like now. And it astounds me, guys. We have eyes to see, ears to hear, a brain to process, a frontal lobe to make decisions. When you see something like this...
And I spotted it instantly because she didn't humble herself when she was supposed to. And I'm glad I didn't waste any more time on her, because she's never going to be doing like my other girls do, living in my house, letting me f other women, remaining loyal, and bring me coffees and doing as I say. That's what you're looking for, gentlemen.
Can I say this on YouTube? Yeah, I can say this on YouTube. I've legitimately done that. Girls running their mouth. I start beating the f out of them, not even having sex. They love it more than ever. They like it more. The less you have them, the better.
I don't think there's anything intrinsically wrong with women doing OnlyFans, as long as I had influence and control over it.
First things first, the reason women need a man to do OnlyFans is the same reason a woman need a man to do anything, because they're incompetent and they're very, very lazy.
Doing a video photographer and get the angles, yeah?
No. I'm not doing any real work, but just like taking all the money.
And they're stupid.
If my chick said, I want to do OnlyFans, I'm like, all right, then cool, go do it. How much you made? 10 grand. All right, give me 8. All right, cool. All right.
Why would, what woman is going to give you 8 grand?
Because you're my woman, you're doing OnlyFans, you're selling my product.
Somehow, there is someone out there to make excuses for something so unacceptable. Andrew and his brother, Tristan Tate, have spent years self-confessing their own actions and plans on several audio-visual forms and are now charged in 2 different cases in Romania. After those 2 cases in Romania are concluded, they will be extradited to the UK to face likely charges. Many of these Tate followers will scream that his charges are dismissed, that they're dropped. What's my favorite one? Oh yeah, that the cases are thrown out, and they're not. Tate recently formed a secondary case on the brothers, where more serious charges of continuous acts with a minor were filed, more allegations of HT and R wording. You guys get it. The offense against the minor is that of a 15-year-old. It's very serious. And again, a lot of this is documented and evidential in their own content. So you can imagine my confusion when a plethora of this content that is made available for many to see for themselves, that people are so cognitively dissonant. They just turn their heads in the other direction and okay their actions. Okay, so let's just cut to the chase. Let me tell you where all of this is heading up to. So a few days ago, in fact, I believe it was like a week ago, Telegraph, a very big publication, I believe they're more UK based, published an expose on the Rotherham grooming gang scandal and how the political sphere in that government did nothing. In fact, might have even caused a cover-up for this entire thing. And this was a very serious scandal. This was a grooming gang that targeted girls and women and abused them brutally. So as you would expect, this hit the discourse within social media space, and rightfully so. People were mad. They were outraged at such an injustice, including the government's cover-up, and why they wouldn't investigate this further and bring this grooming gang to justice. And so leave it to Andrew Tate to find a grift wherever he can find it. Andrew Tate, who he himself is accused and alleged to have run his own grooming/trafficking scandal, propositioned himself to run for Prime Minister of the UK to avenge grooming victims and to correct society for the UK. Besides the contradiction of this pirate-like figure who wants to bestow good morals on society and correct our environment, get this irony. So a few hours after announcing his candidacy, an actual grooming gang victim named Samantha Smith took it to Twitter and expressed this obvious irony in a tweet, naming the similarities between the very grooming gang that had been resurfaced and had been alleged to be covered up in the headlines that abused her, and compared them to those details that of what Tate is being accused of, and that is of human continuous acts with the minor, etc. What happened next put Tate's character on full display for many to assess for themselves. He responded to her tweet threatening legal action, intimidating and bullying her. Samantha deleted the tweet out of intimidation and reported so publicly, saying, "FYI, I deleted my post on Andrew Tate. I'm barely 20 and have spent the past few days reliving the worst years of my life in the public eye. That does some to you. Have some grace, please." So Tate the Talisman, who is Tristan Tate, Andrew Tate's brother, "You can stop the threats of legal action. I'm sorry, I'm quiet." And then Andrew Tate so gracefully responded with this: "Nobody feels sorry for you. You attacked us first. See you in court." Like, imagine, okay, Samantha Smith is an actual grooming gang victim. She's talking about in this tweet that within the past few days from that tweet, she was reliving the horrors of being abused with these resurfacing details, and with the, I guess, you would have to be empathetic to believe the helplessness that she felt, that none of the political sphere was doing anything to help her or any fellow victims. So such a callous reply from Tate is what exposed him to everybody. Everybody saw his character, and that's what set off the Streisand effect and had people really intrigued about what is being accused of him. So discourse happened organically from there. A mass of people woke up seeing the horrible things that he's been accused of, the horrible things he's confessed on camera, on podcasts. People were waking up. People were still waking up. Some, at least. Benny Johnson, a conservative commentator and personality, posted a promotional flyer a day or two later advertising Andrew Tate as his guest. People were actually outraged, not because he was platforming Andrew, but in the sense of what he was setting this whole thing up as. The flyer had him and Andrew posed doing the smolder, both with sunglasses on, a crying liberal in its reflection. Benny was aiming to make this conversation not about pushback, but to be trendy and to fawn over Andrew Tate. Mind you, Benny Johnson had Andrew Tate on as a guest on the heels of Andrew announcing his UK Prime Minister aspirations. You want to know something really funny? Andrew announced his political party by the name of the Bruv Party. How professional. And his followers are just so oblivious. Do you know that there is not one UK Electoral Commission application for this political party? Let's platform Andrew Tate. and his candidacy and his new political party, Bruv Party, one of which that is not registered and has no application for, and also that is located in the UK, where Andrew Tate can't even step foot in because he is on house arrest in Romania. Oh yes, and that's another thing. He is still on house arrest. His house arrest is not being lifted as of a decision that was made overnight in Romania that Tate appealed. And what's additionally hilarious is that the overlook does not stop there. Apparently some guy purchased the Bruv IP to troll the brothers and also to keep them away from that identity in the UK. Eventually you're going to find out about it, but right now the brothers are going to run as much as they can on the Bruv Party. And the Wonderlist oblivious idiots of our world are just going to believe it. Did Benny know all this? Evidence about the Tate brothers' character, crimes, schemes, everything that I mentioned before is out there for you to see and hear for yourself. And in my opinion, they are some of the dumbest self-snitching criminals I have ever seen or heard. And it's not hard to comprehend.
And I think I get this from my job. So when I'll say pimping because it was webcam, but it was essentially what it was. When I was pimping, you'd pick up a girl, but if you get a high value asset, like a girl, because that's what a beautiful woman is. A beautiful woman's a high value asset. It's like having a Ferrari. You walk down the street with a beautiful woman, it's like driving a Lambo. Everyone's staring at you. So if you pick up a high value asset, in the pimp game, you need to learn how to control her and retain her. You need to make her do as you say, and you have to keep her. You have to keep her regardless, in spite of the fact that you cheat, you're busy, you take all her money, you make her do something she doesn't want to do, and she still has to stay with you. So to me, that's what the game was.
So let me emphasize, it's not the platforming itself that upsets people. It's conservatives like Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, Benny Johnson, just to name a few, that just fawn over the Tates and don't challenge them with conflicting things that they have said versus the image they are trying to portray of themselves. It's the reaction and the omission of the truth that starts looking really fishy. So let's get back to Benny Johnson. So he went ahead and conducted his podcast, even brought in President Trump's now newly appointed counselor, Alina Habba, which just... this is the stuff that keeps me like balanced and thinking, because it's like, what are you doing, girl? What are you doing? You're newly appointed. You have like a really high position in the government, you know, and you are the president's counselor. And here you are fangirling over Andrew Tate. Just a nightmare. She was batting her eyes. She had a huge smile. And it was just a nightmare. She said things like she was a big fan, that she has his back, and that he was comparable to Trump. Just, girl, just such a bad look. The backlash ensued because people were like, how the hell do you not see? How do you not see everything that is out there? How do you not see the indictment? How do you not see these things? People were flooding Benny's comments, backlashing that he not only didn't push back on Tate, but lied about him being persecuted when it was a clear reason to lean on reasoning for his prosecution. If this is what boggles my mind, is that people have arguments who are arguing for the Tates that the trial hasn't even completed yet and it's innocent until proven guilty, and you know they're going by the American law, you know, mentality, which is not a bad thing. But think about how we already knew Epstein, for instance. Epstein, we already knew with all of the evidence and the corroborative statements, the corroborative events and the photos and everything, you know, the mass majority all agreed that Epstein was a bad guy. And so did Benny sit back, take a moment to reflect and learn? No. Benny framed this whole thing as if the generic public was trying to censor and deplatform him. This is what he said. If you're upset that people you disagree with have conversations, you need to find a different year to live in. It's 2025. People can think for themselves. We are free. Grow up. And yeah, I agree. Apparently, people can think for themselves because facts supersede feelings. Plus, a major irony in this entire piece is the fact that Benny forgets that free speech goes both ways. It doesn't just go the podcast's way, right? That's weird. He can platform a degenerate and fawn over him instead of doing some basic integrity reporting and push back on him, at least call him out for some things that he said that were very foul and vile. But we also have the freedom to criticize Benny if he doesn't do all these things, which is exactly what happened.
Because he himself has been the victim of state-sponsored incarceration, lawfare, and abuses of justice for political reasons, has had his free speech silenced and limited, has had his freedom of movement and thought silenced and limited, and has fought through at every measure, and is now on the precipice of victory and looking at potentially running himself for office. We're going to ask all of these things of Andrew Tate, who joins us live. Andrew Tate, top G from the podium.
From the podium, yeah, because I'm basically de facto the Prime Minister of the UK currently.
Is it?
We stated our reasoning for why this was such a bad choice of actions. Benny Johnson, he runs on this, moral ground that he's a father, he's a husband, he has daughters, right? And that's what people were saying. This is crazy. Would you want your daughters hanging out with someone like Tate? Would you want your daughters being influenced by someone like Tate?
One of my main chicks has 200,000 Instagram followers, and I took her virginity when she was 17.
No. So, again, they pushed back on Benny's response, and he once again did not sit down to reflect, but instead he was rash and tweeted out this Bible verse where he got community noted with an atomic bomb, where it reads, "He who is without sin cast the first stone," John 8:7. Oh, Benny. So more irony piled into more irony. You see, this Bible verse, "He who is without sin cast the first stone," it was a setting of Jesus putting a stop to a stoning that was about to happen to an adulterous woman. And I think we consider this a sex worker, right? Where he calls out the hypocrisy of sin, and he who is without sin cast the first stone. We're making the people who are the men who are about to stone her reflect on their own sin and their own image, because who knows the detriment of their sin if maybe one of them or a few of them were worse adulterers and did more frequent acts than this woman ever did, and here they are being hypocritical about to stone this woman. And so he then turned to the woman and told her to go and sin no more, right? So he didn't say, it's fine, you can walk off, you can do whatever you want, this is a badge and license to keep doing what you're doing. He said, go and sin no more. And that's where the irony sits. Benny Johnson is trying to cast this entire Bible verse as if it's like a coverall for Andrew Tate and what Andrew Tate is doing. But in fact, it's omitting that this is a very depraved, degenerate man who has decayed morals and boasts about it, right? He has no remorse whatsoever. And here is Benny, a family man who declares himself as a Christian and is trying to utilize and weaponize this verse in order to cover his fraternizing with Andrew Tate, which it does not click. You've got to call them out, right? You could do that with grace. You don't have to do it with fire, but push back a little bit so that way at least you're painting yourself as a believer of Jesus, if that's what you claim to be. So anyway, that's the whole irony about that. And the community note did, in fact, fact check him. So all of this, I wanted to bring up with Benny Johnson as, the pivotal character in this particular piece. I wanted to bring up Tenet Media, and we haven't talked about that in a while because there hasn't been any news about it. But I did create 2 videos regarding this scandal of Tenet Media. In a nutshell, it was the U.S. indicting 2 Russian nationals who created this media company, and it basically infiltrated the conservative sphere. They brought on very, very high follower, high platformed conservative voices, conservative personalities to be the face of their media company and to push content for them. And in this whole scandal, the indictment lists that these personalities were getting paid big buckaroos. We're talking hundreds of millions, some of these. And I think Benny Johnson was definitely included as a individual in this whole scheme, but not necessarily as the person who schemed, but rather maybe a person who got paid to do it. Him along with Tim Pool, Lauren Southern, for Dave Rubin, there were a few other personalities, if not that was it. And it was all driven majorly by Lauren Chen, the roaming millennial, who is a Canadian native. Anyway, that's all of it in a nutshell. But the reason why I bring this up is because it seems relative. It just seems relative that, a lot of this content in the conservative sphere nowadays, it just seems so inorganic. It just seems so forced and so pushed. And there's a lot of degenerate narratives and rhetoric and diatribes that are going around just it's not edifying in any way. It's just to rage bait. It's to push divisiveness. I mean, it's really not what it had been in a few years ago, where we were really united against this major culture war. And now it's I'm embarrassed to call myself a conservative because of how their behavior just displays and makes everybody look bad. Right. So I truly believe that there is something bigger going on, that there's a bigger scheme. Tenet Media could be one of the examples that could probably, allow us to explore all the other things that could be going on in the sphere. And actually, as I'm saying this, I'm reminding myself of a recent expose that exposed another group. So I might do another video on that. But again, we've got to call this out on the right as well. All of these narratives and these divisive things that these big influencers want to push, it's not right. It's not right. And so we've got to be balanced. We've got to be able to see this with a level head and some level thinking. And I think that's where I'm at, right? I'm not afraid to just call it out how I see it, because this is just obvious. You see this content and it's obvious. This is not good. It's not, it's not conducive to a healthy environment or a healthy society. It's just not. And so I think that we all collectively need to see this. And when you see it and recognize how degenerate some of this rhetoric is, speak out about it. So anyway, that's one of the recent examples. There's so many relative examples that I could go into, but I'm just trying to keep this as concise as possible because that could be several videos. So with that being said, guys, have you noticed this about conservative media and the right-wing sphere? Have you noticed a weird force in, this divisiveness and rage baiting? I mean, it definitely happens a lot on X, formerly known as Twitter. I haven't really seen so much on other platforms because, Instagram, for instance, a lot of news, a lot of memes, a lot of parody content. I haven't seen the type of discourse that we have on X as much, but it definitely is an area where people can definitely get influenced and believe stories that are not necessarily true. So anyways, I thought I would make this. Please let me know what you think in the comments below. Thank you guys so much, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.